Hello and welcome back to the Villa Villa podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's preview time. Aston Villa
Sorry.
versus Southampton. How you doing, bro?
All good, mate. All good. How are you?
Mate, I'm good, thank you. I'm glad that we're bringing the previews back again. I do kind of like that
Yes,
we've
indeed.
we've ditched the format. I liked the format. I was a big fan for the. I fought a lot for the five things, didn't I? I fought hard,
Yeah,
but I've caved at your will. I've caved at the subscribers' will
we're
because
busy, man.
we're busy men, and people at the end of the day want our conversations, and that is why we're here. So,
Can you blame them?
I mean, I can't really, Dan. I can't. And you guys have been amazing, honestly. Like with before we get into it, I've just subscriber appreciation time because your guys'
Yeah.
support on the channel right now has been mad, considering how bad Villa are. Like, unlike a lot of other channels, like you guys tend to clock out when Villa aren't doing too great. So the ones who stick around uh,
I mean, we
at
almost
the
clock out,
most,
to be fair, but there's times
yeah.
where we're like, yeah, do we
Do
have
we have
to?
to? We'll do it later. No, we have to do these videos because we have a sponsor now. But
Yeah,
speaking
very true.
of the sponsor, we have a message from the wonderful guys over at One Football. Dan, have you ever wanted an app that collates all the scores and news from your favourite teams in the whole of Europe, Dan? Have you ever wanted that?
Is a constant need of mine, mate, because there's always news. That's the thing, is that we love this game. We love the industry of football because it's ever changing, mate, and you need a place to keep up with it all.
And we have that place exactly
We
for you
sure do,
guys.
mate.
It's One Football. Guys, this app is genuinely, it's life changing.
It's great because I actually I use it. So it's great because it's where I pull the stats from for the podcast. So it's like there's all that new stuff as well, but you can track all of the players' stats from like across Europe for all the different leagues for continental football as well. It's a dream. It's a dream, and the best part, mate, is it's free.
It's free, and guys, it would help support the channel massively if you check that One Football using the link in the description down below. We promise you guys won't be disappointed. So, guys, if you haven't checked out One Football, make sure you do so using the top link in the description. Dan needs to buy a car. I need to pay for my car to be fixed. We love One Football so much. They're helping us create all this extra content for you guys, which without it, like on a level, we just wouldn't be able to do so. So, thank you very much to the guys at One Football. Less
Yep.
about that, more about Aston Villa versus Southampton. I'm feeling somewhat optimistic, and my optimism is probably wrongly placed, Dan, purely off the basis that we beat Brighton 2-0 in a less than convincing performance, in my opinion. Let us know in the comments what you thought about that, guys. If you didn't check out our last podcast about Brighton, you can also check that out as well. Um, I didn't think it was a fantastic performance by any means, but the fact that you can win them games, that's really important because Villa haven't been in these games that we've been performing so poorly in recently. Southampton, we were just chatting off air, Dan. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a really tricky one because I think
Yep.
like Hassan Holte is a very good manager, and each season he's given less and less to work with, and he's producing the same results. I put him within the same bracket as Sean Dyche. They're both doing incredible jobs given the absolutely limited resources that they have, and have still kept their respective sides in the Premier League for now. Southampton just off the back, about 40 minutes ago, off the back of a 3-1 win in the FA Cup against West Ham, which is massive because West Ham are apparently massive. I understand the reference in case there's any West Ham fans. Don't come for me, I can't be asked. Um, and before that, beating Norwich 2-0 as well in the fashion that they did. Fantastic goal from Romeu. Southampton are at that time in the season where everything's feeling right, and they have that. At least once every season, they're on a bit of a nice run. This could be a really difficult time to face them, Dan.
Yeah, I think it really will be, mate. This is far, 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 far from a walk in the park. This is the team that's only lost once since December, believe it or not, since losing 3-0 at the Emirates. They've gone on an absolute tear. They've taken points off the likes of Tottenham, City, Spurs again, United, Everton. The only time they've lost in that run was against Wolves when they were really on the come up. So yeah, I mean, this is a team, as you said, man. This is a team which are in a real good spot. That win against West Ham feels massive. I mean, you've got to respect Hassan Holte, man. This man went into a game against West Ham with Adam Armstrong and Shane Long up front and bounced them 3-1. So I mean, you have to
Yeah.
respect that. You really, really do. This is a side which we were talking off air, mate, about there might be a little bit of animosity because of we sort of nabbed Danny Ings off them, and I imagine that for Saints fans that didn't really feel like a massive step up for him. Not sideways, but like diagonally. I think is he sort of made that switch and it came out of nowhere. We obviously chased James Ward-Prowse pretty hard, and he's someone that fan base absolutely adores. And I've got to be honest, I wouldn't mind going back again in the summer. There's a lot of players that I like. There's been a lot of talk about left-sided centre halves, and I love Mohamed Salisu. I love him. I think he's excellent. And you know what? If Villa won a six, I think we could do a lot worse than Oriol Romeu. I think he's quality. I think he's so underrated in that position. They have so many good players. They are definitely a team which, at the moment, are more than a sum of their parts. They play a 4-4-2, which makes them very stodgy, very difficult to play against. They're very good in transition, and when they get the ball into those areas, Armando Broja, they've got these players which can really hurt you. And they did a very good job on us. Ultimately, they're a team which ended the Dean Smith era, and they looked very, very comfortable against us back in that game in November. It was, 1-0 doesn't really reflect the tail of the tape in that game. So yeah, they'll be coming to Villa Park in full confidence, because whilst we have got that win, and I think we needed it, there's not exactly confidence flowing through the Villa ranks right now. I think we definitely needed that win. Otherwise, this game does look different. The only reason which I do believe we could take something from this game is because we had that win and it came at such a crucial time. But because if we didn't, mate, I would be really, really dreading this game, because they're a side which are on some form right now.
Absolutely, and I think Villa find it really difficult when they play against. I think you look at Southampton; they're a side that work really hard for each other, not only on the ball but off the ball as well. And I think that's a really underrated asset, and they're quite an abrasive team. And that 4-4-2, the two strikers up front, Villa historically struggle defending against two strikers. And when you've got players like Che Adams, who we have to give him his credit, has established himself very well as a second striker in the Premier League. Pair that with Armando Broja, who has just been a breath of fresh air at Southampton. Ultimately took a massive gamble on bringing this guy in, but he's got 6 Premier League goals, an XG of 6 exactly. No penalties in that either. He's a handful. He's winning about 4.68 aerials per 90 and applying 18 pressures. So not only can he be a focal point to an attack, but he is also capable of leading the line as well. He is a mobile striker. He's the perfect mix between a target man and a sort of modern day centre forward. And FB Rev have him down as a similar player to Alexander Isak and DCL, which I totally see, but like that game in him. And he's gonna cause our defense a lot of problems, I think. It's interesting, Dan, because with the way that Villa lined up against Brighton, in that sort of 4-4-2 diamond, I want to say, with how narrow the midfield was, and playing with two strikers, you are naturally going to invite a lot of pressure from the likes of Mohamed El-Yunusi and Stuart Armstrong on the wings for Southampton. The midfield battle is I think the game is won and lost in the midfield, because if you line up in that similar formation as we did against Brighton, I can see the outball from the likes of Livramento and Walker Peters being on every single time. And whilst Armstrong and El-Yunusi aren't the most clinical players, boy are they quick, and they are just tirelessly working for the team. And I think could cause some problems for Villa's fullbacks. I will caveat that with, though, Dan, it was a very disciplined performance from both Kashi and Dean last time round, and they were clearly told, do not concede space to Kukurea or Lamptey. And I would hope that they're going to be the instructions today, because I don't think you could ask for a more informed fullback right now than Tino Livramento supplying any of the Southampton forwards, could you?
No, absolutely not, mate. I think both of their fullback spots are quite underrated. I think Kyle Walker-Peters, every time I watch him, I'm like, Spurs have just been crying out for a right back for the longest time. Matt Doherty doesn't work. And it's like, you had one? It's
Yeah,
like Kyle Walker-Peters is really good. They could do, it does feel like every time I watch him, it's like, why did they let him go? This could be exactly what they need right now. And I think they have a lot of players who feel like that, to be honest with you. Like, you sort of watch and you're like, you know what, these guys are actually really good. And I think, as we sort of alluded to earlier, I think that's the sign of a good manager ultimately. I think it's not, this fixture isn't helped by the fact we don't have a great record against that. Doesn't it feel like I say that about every team?
yeah, it does.
We don't have a great record against Southampton. One win in our last 11 games against them. That was our 1-0 win away there last season, that Ross Barkley header. We've lost, and we've conceded. We've had some pretty heavy defeats to them as well. If you're in that space between, the last time we beat them at home, you're having to take it back to 2004. In that time we've conceded, we've 4-3 last season, 4-2. We lost 6-1 to them in the Premier League back in 2015. We lost 4-1 to them in 2012. The last time we beat them at home, 2004. This is a side that we're long overdue a good performance against, and we feel like happy pickings for them at the moment. So I think ultimately they're going to be flying high right now. I think we have the capabilities to bring them back down to earth. I really do. I think this game feels quite even. If the best Villa turn up, we can definitely take points from this game. And, as we said a few weeks ago, we really need to. I think this game and then the next one against Leeds are important to try and take as much from as we can. I really want sort of 4 points from that, because we do have a very tough run then to close out the season. Obviously, I know you've got to throw the Burnley game in there, which we'll still not be given a date for. But I mean, either way, it's still pretty tough. Even the most winnable game as we close out the season is probably Norwich. But with all the narrative around Dean coming back and everything like that, you can bet your bottom dollar that's not going to be easy. These two games feel really important, mate, in terms of setting a tone for how we close out the year. We're capable of it, but the best version of Villa needs to turn up.
100%. And, the thing with Southampton is they're always in a game. And, they're conceding an average of 1.42 goals per 90, but, they're also scoring around 1.31. So it's quite similar. So if Southampton do go a goal down, more than likely they're going to get one back. They're going to remain competitive. And, as I alluded to earlier, the midfield's going to be so important in this. Now, I think it raises a fair few questions as to who is going to start and where. In the Brighton debrief, I think we've both agreed, and I think we've kind of thought this for the longest time now, but Brighton was not Douglas Luiz's finest hour, and I think it's time Sanson starts in that 8, and I think what he would offer in a midfield that I think to be fair to Southampton, generally, you guys can see this 4-4-2 here. It rarely changes from that, but the mid, what happens with the likes of Armstrong and El Yanusi is they do sometimes tend to tuck in, and it does become almost that Ralph Rangnick 4-2-2 formation, which again can be quite notorious to defend against. I think because of course that midfield pairing of Romeu and Ward-Prowse, whilst is effective, is certainly not the most mobile, and I think I am just referring to Romeu there out of the two. But when you Armstrong and El Yanusi essentially have a free role when out of possession, and I think having someone like Morgan Sanson in the midfield who is a lot more aware, has a much higher footballing IQ, and is well up there in terms of tackles, interceptions, blocks, his awareness just in general is significantly better than Douglas Luiz's. And, dare I say it, he's a relatively press-proof midfielder. I think it totally makes sense for Morgan to kind of anchor the midfield in this game. And I think he totally deserves his chance as well because, as we said the other week, mate, if he isn't getting minutes now, then like when is he?
Yeah, it pains me to say, mate, but this is increasingly, as we go week by week, becoming a deal that I'm almost resigning to. It's not going to work out. At this point, it's going to have to take so much for him to reverse the tide and establish himself in this team, and move away. Like, just feels more and more inevitable with every game that passes, with every substitute appearance at 80 minutes, with every time he's left on the bench. It really must be tough for him right now. But you know what, mate? If we can get a hold on that midfield, especially as you said, if we have 3 against 2 in that department, in terms of the centre of the park, there's opportunities there. There really are. This is a side which, especially away from home, I think there's vulnerability there. It's a side that, if you only have to look at the goals conceded, right? So, at home this season, they've only conceded 10 goals, which is pretty remarkable. That's the same as Arsenal. It's only one more than Manchester City. But away from home, that spikes to 27. So it's clear that they're not, that defence isn't as sure when they're away from St Mary's. I think it will be interesting to see how they go tonight against West Ham. They didn't start Salisu. I think Stevens came into that back line. So, it seems that they're willing to change things around a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, mate. It's such a difficult game to predict. They're so difficult to play against. If we go back to the last Premier League game, it was Bednarek and Salisu who do seem to be like the nailed-on starters in that position. So I expect to see them back at Villa Park. And that's not going to be easy to penetrate. So yeah, as I said, mate, it's a very difficult game to predict. And I think ultimately it will come down to which of the side turns up on the day.
Absolutely. I'm not going to ask you for prediction this week, Dan. I'm going to let you have that
Thank
one.
God.
I'm going to let that one slide because I think it would maybe end the episode with a slightly negative tinge. However, to try and, in a bid to end the episode on a positive note, Aston Villa published their accounts today, and Dan thought it'd be a good idea to go through this, so we will. You guys will be able to see it on screen if you haven't already. So on finishing 11th from 17th, Aston Villa have essentially gone on and received onwards of £60 million in revenue from last season. It was we had 112.6 million from staying up, and last season we recorded revenue of 183.6 million, which is fantastic, especially when you consider the fact that, as the club do refer to here, we signed the likes of Emi Martinez, Ollie Watkins, and Matty Cash. It's been really difficult for a lot of clubs, essentially, given the pandemic and given the spending. And, as we were kind of alluding to off air, Dan, Villa have spent a lot of money. So, it's a good thing that we've seen turnover grow in the manner that it has. Although the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, the cost of the club estimated a 36.6 preliminary loss due to matchday revenue and rebates of Premier League broadcasting funding. Losses before taxes were down to £37.3 million from £99.5 million in the previous year. So there's a 62.5% reduction already on losses, which again, that's fantastic. That entirely comes from just being present in the Premier League and competing. And if anything, that is an incentive to end the season on a high, because at this stage, from 11th to 9th, there is some serious money. The money is different if you finish, whether it's 10th, 9th, 8th. Every million matters. But, as again, the article, it goes on to detail it. And then later on, in terms of building a future, which is really important, Dan, and I think is something that we need to talk about, because there is a lot of good work has gone into building a sustainable football club, a model which invests in the academy, and seeing the likes of Tim, Carney, JJ, Josh Feeney was in the squad recently. Obviously, Cam Archer's doing bits right now. Louis Barry too, having a great time at Swindon. This is where I think Villa will see the investment pay off in the long term, because we've spent a lot of money, and you almost have to in the Premier League. We've had to, I think that Purslow referred to being in kind of our Premier League journey as having to need 3 separate squads, and I think we're on that second squad right now. And to get where we need to be, you have to invest heavily in the third. But after that, and understandably so, there isn't an endless pit of money, and I think Villa fans do need a reality check on that. There isn't a bottomless pit of money that owners may lose interest. They're all, it's all hypothetical, I know, but in order to be sustainable, we have to keep promoting youth. We have to spend money on investing in the facilities and young players, and why not play Timber Begum rather than pay 50 million for Yves Bissouma? Do you know what I mean? Because Bissouma's a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong, but at 26 years old, 50 million pounds, you have a player who you can nurture and who can play that position for the next 10 to 15 years. That's cost you nothing. It's just cost you a new training ground. But I think this is what's important for me. Yes, Villa are making money. The record revenue, that is fantastic. That of course pleases me, Dan. But to see the fruits of the club's labour, and I think it's fair to say this has been Christian Perslow's project since he's come in. So we have to give him his credit. This is what I'm most looking forward to seeing, the return on investment. And I'm not even talking now. We're talking 10, 15 years down the line, mate, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. There's a lot of positives that have come out of these reports. You have to, the fact that we've managed to decrease losses down 38 million, as you said, in a time of the pandemic, is pretty remarkable. Income actually also went up during that period. We've spent less cash on players in 2021. 2021, sorry. We spent 89 million, which is down from the previous year, despite the caliber of player increasing. But you're right, mate, for all of the positives, and there are a lot. I want to say that there are a lot. The average weekly wage is still only £64,000, which is not too bad. The highest paid director went down by over 450 grand. So there's a lot of positives. But you look at it, and the owners have put in £225 million in cash into the club from their own pockets via shares in 2 years. That's ridiculous. That is utterly, honestly, that is obscene. We don't appreciate these guys as much, because that is an investment which likely they won't get back until they sell.
Yeah,
that's the only way you're going to make that money back. This is an investment which, it depends how long these guys are at the club, but to put that money in just goes to show how important this. Honestly, I would want to have said this season, but it looks like it's going to have to be next season. I don't want to say Europe or bust, because it isn't, but at some point this becomes a financial decision where these guys have to say, okay, Stevie, Dean did his job. Dean got us into the Premier League, which is the only reason that any of this is utterly possible. Now it is Steven Gerrard's time to carry that on, and he has to do it. We have to get into European football. This club has to become self-sustainable, because at the moment, the cash and the way that this club is operating, we're still sucking onto the teat of the owner, and it's all very nice. But eventually you can't do that. You have to be going deep into competitions, domestically and European, to make sure that this all balances out. A lot of Villa fans are quite fearful of FFP, and if you look at these reports, you won't be. But the one thing which is exempt from FFP restrictions is the academy. You can spend as much as you fucking want on the academy. It's exempt from financial fair play. And that's why I think Villa have gone so heavily in it, because it's a no-brainer. But at some point, you have to trust them. At some point, you have to go, okay, to make all of that make sense, we're not going to go and spend, as you said, 50, 60 million on a Basuma. We are going to play Tim. And the more that you go and spend on players, the harder giving the academy a chance becomes, because you have, let's take the current boys on loan right now, Louis Barry. He's one of the more high profile. Cameron Archer. At what point do you go, okay, we're going to sell Ollie Watkins, we're going to sell Danny Ings, and we're going to go with Cameron Archer, or we're going to go with Louis Barry? At what point we're going to go, okay, Matty Cash, go to Atletico, Kane Hesler, you're in. And you have the outroar from Villa fans, inevitably. And because you're like, the more high profile these players become in each position, the harder it is to embed a lad that's on loan at Swindon or MK Dons or Preston North End, because of the nature of the game. So it's like, at some point, we have to give the opportunity for investment to make sense. There's no point just I say financially, there's a point just bringing these players to sell them on. But in terms of the Villa, in terms of the project, these guys have to be in the team, and at some point you have to trust them. Like, it's all very well and good seeing them go away on loan, but we have to see that's fine for their development. It's great, but you want to see them doing it in a Villa shirt, and I think it makes sense for all the financials if that's the future. Rightly so, mate.
Absolutely, and just interesting as well. At the end of this report, there was confirmation that Villa are looking to build an entirely new North Stand. Hospitality included, taking Villa Park to over 50,000 in capacity, which would be just remarkable. It really would, and I think is an important. I think you don't build a new stand, Dan, and you don't look to add more corporate boxes to make more money, unless Villa aren't serious about the project. So let's just hope that the on the pitch performances start to match the ambitions of those off the pitch. I think that's probably a good note to end this preview on. As well, speaking about the improvements in the academy, they have kind of tailed this off by saying that the new central academy in the centre of Birmingham, being done on the Brookvale estate, which is of course adjacent to Villa Park, they've received planning permission and are expecting for construction to begin shortly, which is fantastic news. Again, you can cover a whole completely different demographic of player and attract them to the club, because not everybody can make it out to as far as Tamworth. It's really important to make Aston Villa as accessible as it can be for as many families within the local area, and talent too, and ensure that essentially, like, the club isn't discriminating, because ultimately, you hear so many stories of footballers' parents and families having to give everything up essentially to fuel this journey that these players end up going on. And I think a lot of the time these people are coming from working class backgrounds, so to have that academy right in the heart of the community is a fantastic initiative, and hopefully ensures fairer opportunities for whatever class, gender, race that is. I think that's really important from the club, and is really good news. So yeah, I know we've kind of gone on and spoke about a few different things in this preview, but let us know your thoughts ahead of this match. We'd love to know in the comments down below, and make sure you download OneFootball as well. It'd help Dan and I out more than you could imagine. Up the Villa.